Welcome to Cocktails with the Crew, a podcast about wedding planning.
Episode 3.
Welcome to episode 3 of Cocktails with the Crew. I am Jessica Burke, and I'm the publisher of New Orleans Weddings magazine, and this is Jessica Talazac. She is the director of special events for Republic, which is where we are now. We also have a great behind-the-scenes crew, Miss Ellen Kramer on our audio, and Mr. Brian Jarrow, our photography crew, who you met him last week on our episode 2, and we just had to have him back. So he is now helping us with the filming. So we are very excited today. We have another fantastic cocktail. What do we have today, Jessica?
Yes, so this one we're calling the Wedding Zinger because it is made with Belvedere ginger zest, some pomegranate juice, and we're going to pop some champagne to top it with because, you know, it's after 5 and
It's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are great welcome cocktails, you know, something with champagne, but it's got a little juice in it too, and a little vodka, so it gives you a little extra kick.
And this is actually the perfect drink for us today because we are talking about celebrating and enjoying the moment.
Yes, that is our topic of the day. All about, you know, just really being present and enjoying the moment and not forgetting what's important about a wedding.
Yes. So without further ado, while Jessica finishes up the cocktails, we are very excited today to welcome Lydia Noble and Nicole Hartman of Noble Events. They are fantastic wedding planners, and we are excited to talk to them and gain their insight into celebrating and enjoying the moment. So come on in. There you go.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Sparkling.
There you go. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And then we have to have our little traditional toast here.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. All righty. So,
that's yummy.
yeah, that's yummy. So, this topic of celebrating, enjoying the moment is one that is really one that I am very excited about. I feel like it's a recurring theme when we publish the magazine, is focusing on enjoying the moment and really being present. And I feel like so many people get caught up in the wedding, or they don't want to celebrate, or they get so focused on the process that they forget what they're doing, and they just don't enjoy the process. So Can you tell us about, from a planning perspective, how can your couple slow down and enjoy the moment? How can they really savor the experience?
I know for me, when I'm working with clients, we like to joke and we tell the grooms always, we're just real glad you're here. Mm-hmm. We're real glad you showed up, but you really don't necessarily need to be here. Again, from a planning standpoint, what we see a lot of is a lot of mother-daughter bonding time, or maybe sister-bride bonding time. And not to say that I don't want the groom there totally, but what does help is when he can be removed from a lot of the minutia of the smaller details. Whoops. Yeah. I will. When he can be removed from those smaller details that sometimes will allow couples to start kind of nitpicking at each other and arguing. If he's allowed to be given maybe a few major decisions to help in, that normally helps the bride and groom together slow down, as you say, and in that slowing time, kind of focus on what's important between the two of them, which is the upcoming massive life change they're both about to experience, as opposed to him worrying about a flower color or texture that, let's be honest, ladies, he doesn't care about.
Yeah, usually they don't. Right. Now, you've done a lot of weddings. Can you tell us about Noble Events and how you got started and what brings you to the wedding world?
The abbreviated version. I wound up with a degree in musical theater and opera, and every grown-up older than me said, what are you going to do with this degree? And I said, I have no idea. And then people started, I love to throw a party. I love to be in production and make it work and come together, the flow of an event. And I took a chance, and I said, I think I'm going to try wedding planning. Let's just see what happens. I paid someone $30 15 years ago to create a website that was terrible. But it was a $30 website, and it appeared as a $30 website. But what happened is, in that first year of putting that website out there and just kind of throwing out into the universe, like, hey, let's give this a shot, I got 3 brides. And they took a chance on me, and luckily I did something right a couple of times, because the following year I doubled it, and the year after that, and we have grown exponentially since 2004. And now I've got offices from Houston, Texas, all the way to Destin, Florida, and that, of course, includes New Orleans and Mobile. Yes. And I've got a team of 16 planners, and I'm very, very fortunate, very blessed.
That's wonderful. And Nicole is your New Orleans.
Nicole Hartman is our lead New Orleans planner. So if you're getting married in this neck of the woods, this is the face you're going to see. Yes. And she is outstanding. And she also comes to us with a degree in arts, graphic design specifically. So her design work and planning is just top notch, much better than mine. I can definitely say that in truth.
And then I also worked in trade shows. And so the logistics is kind of what married the two, and that's how it just all works out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, I know you have some questions. Jessica.
Yeah. So, just another question, kind of related to, forgetting about the stress and everything of the planning process. What do you find that people get really hung up on that you would recommend that they kind of like eliminate from the process of putting the stress on themselves and kind of giving it to you?
One of my One of my favorite things to talk to a bride specifically about is I will watch these young women they're going through gut-wrenching stress over a couple of different things, and I'm like, this is not a big deal. Yeah. And one of my favorites is they panic over what to dance with their daddies to. And I can't pick the perfect song. They can pick the perfect song for that husband, that first dance, but they can't do it with their daddies. And so one of the things I can say to the bride is, I'm like, let's take it off your plate, because as long as you've been dreaming about your wedding, your mama and your daddy have at least 5 years on you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I want you to do is I want you to say, I release this, I go to your daddy and say, you pick the song, because he's going to blow you away. Mm-hmm. He's going to pick something that you never in a million years would have, and he is going to rock your world, and you're going to go, my daddy. So that's one of them. Other small things that, again, we find people stressing about, the type of signature drink they're going to have. People just want a cocktail. Yes, yes. They're pretty okay with whatever you're going to provide in that first cocktail hour. Or programs. What do we write in our programs? Honestly, your program's going to be doing this in a ceremony.
Yes,
I mean, if you've been to one wedding, you pretty much know how it's going to go. And so those are things that I'm just like, these are very, very small details that you don't have to worry about. I know we definitely during the day of the wedding, as far as keeping stress down there, it is imperative for our team to make sure that the bride and groom always have a private dinner. Mm-hmm. And I know, you're seeing that a lot more nowadays, but there was a time where it wasn't. And what I want is, because the stress comes down when the bride and groom, even if they've got this big party ahead of them, they can kind of reconnect quietly without a mother or a planner or a photographer or whomever on top of them. They have that moment to kind of feed off of each other, their excitement and their peace.
Yes. Right. And they probably don't even get to eat much because they're talking the whole evening. So
that's what we tell our clients. You're going to be together holding each other's hands.
You're not going to be
together.
Right.
And again, you've done this monumental moment, monumental change, and so it takes a little bit for someone to go, holy cow, what have we done? What have we, what have we changed?
Sink in for a minute.
Right.
So that's a great, technique. Day of, make sure you have that, 20 minutes or so to eat by yourselves kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Are there any other techniques or strategies for, kind of having that moment, that pause that you implore during your weddings?
Maybe not bride and groom, but definitely sometimes with some of my brides. I try to become friends with most of my brides because there's a trust aspect. If you don't have your bride's trust, it's you're just kind of going through the day, just following the steps. But when you have your bride's trust, I can look at my bride and see she needs 10 minutes. It just happened to me a few weeks ago. She's coming, bride ceremony's in 10 minutes, gets off the trolley, and she just looks at me, and I was like, all right, let's go. Mm-hmm. So I actually took her into the bathroom, and she was like, I think I need to take my dress off for a minute. And I was like, all right, we'll do this. Mm-hmm. She was like, do you know, the wedding's supposed to start soon. I was like, the wedding starts when you tell me you're ready to start.
Yes. I tell my brides that all the time. I'm like, we will hold people outside until you are ready.
Right.
You know,
like that's what we tell them. You sit in here, you tell us when you're ready to go.
Right.
We can sit in this bathroom and eat pizza and hang out all night if that's what you want to do. Yeah. You tell me when you're ready. So I think that's a big aspect of it is gaining your bride's trust.
And I feel another thing from a planner standpoint, you know, plenty of people have very different views on this, but a first look between bride and groom, obviously from the production side of it, we want you to take a first look with that groom. But from everyone else's standpoint, you want that too. Everyone's stress, especially those mamas, the stress comes out. Nobody thinks you're not going to walk down the aisle, but when we all know you've seen each other, the stress on everybody goes down because it's just there's a softening of the day.
And you could still get the great first experience photos, and you actually get pictures of the first reaction because...
And it can be private, where, you know, some grooms don't want to have that moment, that emotional moment in front of a church full of people.
That's the whole thing. So, when we talk with brides, they'll say, well, I've always envisioned that moment where the church doors open or the venue doors open and the groom, you know, just that gasp of air. And my response usually to our clients is, he's going to see you as his wife for the first time regardless. I can tell you, my husband would not have teared up in front of 300 guests in a church. He would have been like, you look nice.
But if it's just a photographer, things, right?
But to be able to have that moment privately with just your photographer, you're getting so much more of a genuine response from both parties.
Yes.
You know, it's a lot easier to be vulnerable with the one person you're in love with versus the one person and 300 of your closest friends.
Friends, family,
strangers
random people that wandered in off the street. So, I mean, we see it today. This is something that why I love the idea of focusing on celebrating. So many times you post and you see a post on Facebook and they talk about, oh, so-and-so spent $1 million on their wedding. And then the comments are filled with, well, I got married for $20 and I'm still married and my wedding's better. And I'm like, okay, you know, that's great if that makes you happy. But I feel like celebrating, this is, as you said, a big deal to get married. You're committing to someone for the rest of your life. So, I mean, not to say there's no one wedding is better than the other. No one way is better. What would you say to someone, you know, that was saying, I don't need to do a wedding because it's just another day?
Well, this is where we have a point of contention because I've always talked and said I don't actually want a wedding.
Okay.
The wedding planner that doesn't want the wedding.
Okay.
Like, I'd rather elope in a really great, you know, European city and then have a party at a bar with my friends afterwards.
All
and
right.
a little bit of cake and some booze. Yeah. So that's where she's always like, you don't want a wedding?
But you're going to get one. I have plans for Nicole. She doesn't know it yet. I really feel that the wedding, so when Nicole says I don't want a wedding, it makes me laugh because I'm going, but you want to stand in front of someone and say, I want to do this forever. Yeah. So to your point, that is a wedding. Yeah,
it is.
Regardless if you're doing it in a bathroom, you know, on Bourbon Street, or if you're doing it, that's not what I'm looking for. But beyond doing that, or whether you've got a $200,000 reception, it really comes down to the moment that you guys are together. So if you walk away from your Bourbon Street bathroom wedding, going, this was exactly what I wanted to do with this person, then you have done it just as right as the person who had that $200,000 mansion.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's so important to remember, to be true to yourself and really celebrate in your spirit. You don't have to put on an event. If you're not a big event, you just want to go and elope to Europe, do it. Unless you're
and bring your boss.
In which case you're going to be, bring your boss. You know, it should be good.
It's going to be an open invitation text message. Hey, going to Europe next week.
Yeah, next week.
Come if you want. If not, this is when the party is.
Yes. So, I mean, I think that's so important. If you are just want to go have a party at the bar afterwards and do the justice of the peace because you don't like standing in front. That's just as fine too, but neither is better than the other.
Absolutely.
I think, it's the only sad thing for me is not celebrating, just making it another day.
Exactly, 100%.
It's not just signing a piece of paper and done.
Right.
That makes me sad. That makes my heart hurt.
every girl needs a photographer and a dress.
Yes.
That's my opinion. You don't even need the bouquet, but a photographer and a dress and you're good.
Yeah, go party, have some fun. Basically.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think we have another guest to bring on board.
We do,
Here. We have
yes.
why don't you introduce her since
Yes.
you know her?
This is Laine Woodruff. She is our real life
Hey.
bride.
Wow.
So she actually got married last January.
You need a cocktail, Laine.
Yes.
I do need a cocktail.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Welcome to the crew.
Yes.
Cheers.
But yeah, so Laine got married last January. So she's going to kind of give us a perspective of, what are some things that, stood out to you on your wedding day, that stood out in your memory, maybe not necessarily just from looking back at photographs and stuff, but really were the special moments for you.
So one of the big things when my husband and I were planning, and by that I mean mostly me, because he just has to show up, we wanted a really fun band because our wedding for us was just a big party for our family and our friends, and so we wanted a good band. And I think the biggest thing that stood out was, and people, my grandmother and like aunts to this day are still telling me, we didn't see you cut your cake. We didn't see you cut your cake. I said, well, that's because I didn't want you to see me cut my cake. I talked to the band, and having them continue playing like, I guess, fun party music was most important to us. And that was, I think, kind of the biggest thing. And just talking about enjoying the moment. For us, the moment wasn't about cake. We took a couple pictures and then we went back to dancing and celebrating. And so that was kind of the biggest thing for us, and just kind of keeping with the idea that this was about us and what we wanted to do, Absolutely. So.
Yes, and as someone who was at that wedding, it was exactly that. They actually pulled Laine and Parker, her husband, up on stage, and they rapped "Lose Yourself" by Eminem.
Oh my
and
gosh.
the entire wedding also rapped along and made a
Yeah.
giant circle around them. It was
awesome.
epic.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and that was the kind of epic moment that we're kind of talking
Right.
about. Is like, those are the moments that you will remember forever, and every guest at your wedding will remember forever.
Yeah. What else? Did you have any other moments?
So there was a couple. I had a really great photographer who was, since I didn't have a wedding planner, I felt like he really helped me the day of. He kind of told me, he said, hey, we got married at Messina's at the Terminal, which is a great Art Deco venue. And he's like, I've never shot here before. There's a lot of good spots. He's like, during the wedding, if I feel like there's a lull, I'll tap you and say, hey, let's go take some pictures. But if you were enjoying it and you were in the moment, we can just skip that. And I thought that was kind of just one of the best things that he could have done, because I'd never had a wedding before, so I didn't know like if you're supposed to go take pictures at a certain time or things like that. And he did tap us, and he took some quick shots, and they're actually some of my favorites, because you're still so in the moment from dancing and being around friends and family that you really have like pure joy on your face. I mean, and that's kind of one of the biggest things. I remember when I took my bridals, I was like, I don't like these at all. And I talked to my mom and a couple other friends, and they were like, it's because you're just stage smiling, it's not real.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like, I think him pulling us at that certain little lull in the wedding was huge, because we were still so excited. It really was just
You're very relaxed.
Right.
oh my gosh, this is just
Which
me.
goes back to hiring vendors that you
Exactly.
really trust to be able to like guide you the day of and know what those moments are, anticipate your needs
Read your
before.
face. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I always,
Yeah.
my biggest thing with my team is I talk about the art of anticipation.
Mhm.
Like I never want someone to have to ask for anything. If they have to
Exactly.
ask for something, then you're not
You're
doing
doing
your
it
job. You need to anticipate what they want before they
Thirsty,
even, like,
yes.
yeah. If I see my bride without a drink in her hand, like I have the drink before she has to walk over to the bar.
Yes.
So it's really kind of about that.
So, Laine, as our first bride guest, what advice would you give to other people planning a wedding, as far as what you wish you had done, or something you did that was really awesome as far as the planning process?
I think, so for me, I'm not a very like type A person, so that's why I felt like I probably didn't need a planner, because I'm just laid back. And I mean, I'm friends with Jessica. I feel like a lot of other people just kind of told me what to do, and I just had to
This is true.
Great.
Yeah.
But I mean, hiring a planner so that you don't have to fret about those little things, because I think for me, like, we had about a year between when we got engaged and when we got married. And, you know, you start in the beginning, you do those couple of big things, and then you just wait for a while. And then when you get close to crunch time, it's kind of like, I think that's when I actually did get stressed, because I was like, oh, did I do this? Do I need that? I need drink menus. I never even thought of that. So I think just like having a planner or working with someone that knows kind of those little details, so that you don't, because you don't want to pimple the day of your wedding. You got to be relaxed, you know? Like, you need someone else to kind of pick up some of that slack for you. And also just, the whole enjoy the moment. It's just, that was one of the biggest things, is like, it was just like me and my husband, like, you know, that was just the best part of it, celebrating with all of our friends and family. And at the end of the day, like, he nor any other guest at the wedding could probably tell you what my bouquet or flowers or centerpieces or anything like that looked like. But they sure could tell you that, you know, we did wrap M&M on the stage. But so, you know, it's just, it's kind of like being true to yourself. I think that y'all have all talked about, and I think that's why it's so important to know your bride and know things that are important to her. Because if you would have asked any member of my family, they wanted that cake to be cut, and they wanted, you know, they didn't want so much quote unquote party music at the end, but you know, it's your
wasn't
It was your day.
And I bet you they had a good time.
They did.
I bet.
Everyone had a great time. It was excellent.
Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us for episode 3. If you're looking for the recipe for the Wedding Zinger, as usual, we will be posting that on our social media, courtesy of our delightful bar mistress, Jessica here. And thank you to our guests from Noble Events and Miss Laine over here, our bride, who joined us today to talk about celebrating the moment. We'll see y'all next week.
Cheers.
Cheers! Wait.
Oh, that was a good one.
That's all good.
That'll make it the blooper reel.
Sorry to spill.
Cocktails with the Crew is a New Orleans Weddings Magazine production, filmed on location at Republic NOLA in New Orleans Warehouse District, featuring host Jessica Talazac, Director of Special Events for Republic NOLA, and Jessica Burke, Publisher of New Orleans Weddings Magazine. Audio recording by Ellen Kramer. Video by Brian Jarrow. Theme music Blues Genius by Steve Fox. Copyright 2019 New Orleans Weddings Magazine.